How's it going, everybody? Martha Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback, and today we are now looking at Marvel Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 1, and I am excited today to begin this review of this volume 1 series of Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't know too much about Ultimate Spider-Man, and I am excited to begin reading this series along with everybody else. And I'm just excited. So let's go ahead and get started with this issue today. Here's the different covers we have that came out during this time. This issue came out in November of 2000, and it was written by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by Mark Bagley. So let's go ahead and get started with the story today. And we're going to just pick up right off the bat here with Norman Osborn and his colleague here, who is Justin, and they are at Oscorp Industries, and they are experimenting on this spider. And what they're using is this Oz drug. It's like an experimental drug with radiation, and they're pretty much just experimenting on all types of animals, including this spider. And if you know anything about Spider-Man, we know that Peter Parker gets bitten by a radioactive spider. Well, let's see. This probably is going to be the spider that bites Spider-Man in this comic. So we just see just a little bit of what Norman Osborn is up to. We come to find out a little bit about Norman Osborn's character here in the Ultimate Universe, and that is he's pretty much a selfish, just businessman. He's out to look for himself. He's out to look to get rich, and it's very, very similar to what we see in the regular Amazing Spider-Man series with that version of Norman Osborn. This Norman Osborn is also very greedy, very selfish, has a temper issue, and he also does not get along with his son Harry. So we just see a little bit about Norman Osborn right here. Here's a big splash page. As always, it's written by Brian Michael Bendis and Bill Jemas. And then, of course, we have Mark Bagley, as I said before, doing the pencils. And I have to say, Mark Bagley has his own unique style of drawing Spider-Man and these characters. And we see right here from the get-go that this spider, although it was placed back into its tube, it crawls out of the tube. And so that's going to play a big part into this story. So let's go ahead and get started with looking at Peter Parker as a character here. We come to find out that Peter Parker is a nerd. He is big into science, very similar to the other universe, the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1 that we've been looking at. And he's a victim of bullying. We see that this setting is taking place at a uh, mall here at a court in Queens, New York, and these guys are just throwing food at Peter Parker. And we see that the two bullies are this guy named Flash and this guy named Kong. And Kong and Flash are like pretty good buddies. They are like two peas in a pod, and they are all the time picking on Peter Parker. Now we also are introduced to two other characters here, and that is Liz Allen and Mary Jane Watson. And we see just that Mary Jane shows a little bit of affection towards Peter Parker. We come to find out that Peter Parker and Mary Jane have been working together as lab partners in high school in a science class, so they're pretty good friends. And she doesn't like how Peter Parker is getting picked on, and wherever he goes, he's always being picked on here. And so we see Flash and Kong here just laughing it up. Peter Parker, he can't really do nothing really. As we see, this is before he gets bitten by a radioactive spider. He's just a normal teenager, just being picked on all the time. Once again, food being thrown right at his face. Just awful bullying here. And we see none other than Peter Parker's uncle, Uncle Ben here. He comes and pretty much to the rescue and says, it's okay. And hey, is that Mary Jane over there? And so Peter Parker has mentioned to Uncle Ben in the past about Mary Jane. We don't know for certain if Peter Parker has a crush on Mary Jane, but Uncle Ben does know about Mary Jane. So he invites Mary Jane to come over, and the two pretty much just get back to normal setting here. Now let's go ahead and see the next day at school, and of course more bullying going on between Flash Thompson and Kong here, showing just relentless bullying here with Peter Parker. Peter Parker's life is pretty, I mean, as we could see right here, he goes through a lot of trials. You also see the introduction to Harry Osborn here. And Harry Osborn kind of sticks up for Peter Parker, but he also uses Peter Parker as well, because Peter Parker, as we see right here, does Harry Osborn's homework. And so Harry Osborn and Peter Parker are going to meet up after school to work on homework. See a little bit more of Peter Parker's life here in school. He sucks at basketball, and even the coach is a bully to Peter Parker here, as he says, "Man, a woman can throw and make a basket better than you can." I mean, he's like, "I swear to God, you're awful at basketball." So once again, I mean, Peter Parker's day at school is awful. And then we come home here. We're in Forest Hills, Queens, and we have Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and they're both just talking with Peter Parker. And Aunt May's concerned about Peter Parker. She hates how he's always being the victim of a bully, but they're always all the time trying to cheer Peter Parker up. You know, they're saying good things about him, how smart he is. So we have a loving family that Peter Parker is living with. We see Harry Osborn working with Peter Parker in their basement here. And we come to find out a little bit about Peter Parker's other life here with his parents. His parents died in a plane crash. They were scientists. And he's always trying to figure out this formula that they had left behind. And so that'll play into great detail in later issues, as we'll come to find out. We see how Harry Osborn's trying his best to meet with his dad. His dad wants nothing with it. He even tells, you know, he tells him to get out of his office. Like, he has no time to be with him. So just we see a little bit more about the character of Norman Osborn. He's very selfish. So the next day, the class is going to meet at Oscorp Industries, and this is where we're going to find out how Spider-Man comes into being, how Peter Parker is bitten by the radioactive spider. And we see right here that from the get-go, he gets bitten by this radioactive spider. I mean, it's a big scene, and he's in a lot of pain. The spider lands on Mary Jane. She swats it. We see Kong. He crushes the spider. And then so Peter Parker, he blacks out. He blacks out from the pain. They get on the school bus after the field trip from Oscorp Industries. Peter Parker's hand is wrapped up. Doctors are going to say that his hand's going to have to heal from swelling. It's going to take about a week. And we see just how Mary Jane Watson here is just a good friend to Peter Parker. She cares about him. And she's like, "Oh, it may have been embarrassing, but I've seen worse things happen." And so Justin here tells them how the double O arachnid specimen got loose and it bit one of the students named Peter Parker. And so Norman Osborn wants Justin to keep contact with Peter Parker. He wants to see what exactly happens to Peter Parker, because they could be sued for this. There could be legal obligations for what happened. But, you know, Norman Osborn wants to send out some spies here to spy on Peter Parker, and they actually want to see if they can kill Peter Parker so that they can have this off their conscience. This is how brutal Norman Osborn is. But also we see here that, you know, he's going to have these spies spying on Peter Parker, but there's something even more sinister about Norman Osborn, and that is that there's just something about him. There's something about Norman Osborn that we just don't understand, but we will find out in the next coming issues to see. We see it at Peter Parker here. He's passed out at home since the whole incident at Norman Osborn's the Oscorp Industries here. Aunt May and, you know, Uncle Ben are both concerned about Peter Parker. And the next day at school, it doesn't look like it gets any better here. Peter Parker is being picked on by Kong and Flash. There's claims that Peter Parker threw up on Mary Jane's shoes. So yeah, this is a very different issue. There's a lot of storytelling in this issue. We're not going to see Spider-Man in this issue at all. We even see Peter Parker, defend himself against Kong here. So for the first time, Peter Parker was able to defend himself, and he's pretty shocked about it by his strange powers that you see. We see how the day unfolds. He blacks out again. There's a lot of different things going on with Peter Parker's body. Peter Parker's body is changing because of this spider bite. And Peter Parker is like, what is going on here? Why am I experiencing all these twitches and sudden experiences here? So the doctors tried to pierce his, you know, arm here with a needle, and they say that his skin has become very rough and it's like strong as steel. Like, what's going on here? So they get a blood sample of Peter Parker, and we see this guy here, and he pretty much steals the blood sample. This guy works for Norman Osborn, and so we see right here that he brings the blood sample back to Norman Osborn, and they come to find out that Peter Parker is dying. Peter Parker is dying because of this spider bite. That's what they conclude here. And so we see because of this that because he's going to die, Norman Osborn wants Peter Parker dead. So he sends this guy named Mr. Shaw, and Mr. Shaw tries to run down Peter Parker with his own vehicle. And we see the first athletic ability here with Peter Parker. He leaps out of the way. Mr. Shaw grabs his gun. Peter Parker runs away here. And so he calls Norman Osborn and he says, "You won't believe this, but," and he tells Norman Osborn what Peter Parker did. Norman Osborn says, "Just abort the mission, abort the mission." So Mr. Shaw aborts, and he said, "I want to study this kid." So Peter Parker returns back to his basement here, and he's like, "What is going on? How did I do that?" So he looks up Oscorp Industries, and he comes to find out that they're experimenting on these spiders here. And so Peter Parker, he comes upstairs. He has a word with Uncle Ben and Aunt May about how he's feeling and how he's acting very strange. And so there's a lot of backlash here with Peter Parker and his family here, and he hates how he's always being picked on. And Uncle Ben and Aunt May, they want nothing more than just the best for Peter Parker. They want him to learn, but being a 15-year-old kid, he kind of has a streak of lashing out, a rebellious streak here. So we end the story right here, the issue number 1, by having Peter Parker climb on the rooftop, or not the roof, but the ceiling of his bedroom. So he's like, whoa. So that's how we end issue number 1 of Ultimate Spider-Man. Hope you like this issue. So go ahead and give this a big old like and subscribe if you have not. And I will see you next time as we look at issue number 2.